share your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions with us as well this evening. I am Alfred Ocansey.
And my name is Christabel. Success Treve.
Government revokes 55 mining licenses, 907 more under investigation as sector faces major cleanup. Stay with us. We've got details for you on what the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources said during that government accountability series earlier today. But the minority in Parliament is accusing the NDC of hypocrisy over the Galamsey crisis, demanding urgent action. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, security beefed up amid tension in Ashanti in the Ashanti region following the brazen shooting and killing of a local chief in the area. Stay with us. We've got details for you. All is set for the mid-year budget review by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Tuforsin. Tonight, we gauge public expectation ahead of the presentation. We'll speak to some specific sector experts. Also, we'll be sharing the expectations with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. And the courts, the former CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, Dr. Mustafa Ahmed, and the co-accused persons have been granted 2 million cedis bail each. Stay with us. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 and on W 93.5 in Y and beyond. Let's settle for a summary of the news now. Christabel?
Yes. In our summaries tonight, the Ghana Education Service has announced that the government of Ghana has fully cleared all outstanding arrears of the capitation grant for public basic schools covering the period from 2023 to date. In a statement issued by GES, the payment reflects the government's firm commitment to the smooth functioning and effective management of basic education across the country. Ghana recorded 7,289 road crashes and 1,504 deaths between January and June 2025, according to provisional statistics released by the National Road Safety Authority in collaboration with the Police, Motor Traffic and Transport Department. The report also revealed that 12,354 vehicles were involved in various accidents during the 6-month period, with 8,300 people sustaining injuries. In addition, 1,301 pedestrians were reported to have been knocked down across the country. In other stories, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, has revealed that 1,200 excavators brought into the country have been impounded at the Tema port as part of efforts to curb the illegal use of earth-moving equipment in illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. Presenting an update on the sector, the minister explained that the impounded machinery is currently undergoing validation before clearance in line with a new tracking initiative aimed at regulating the entry and use of mining equipment across Ghana. Just before we go, the High Court has adjourned proceedings in the ongoing legal battle between suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu and the Attorney General to July 31, 2025, when it would deliver its decision on a motion seeking to strike out the Chief Justice's application for judicial review. Chief Justice Tokonu, currently the subject of impeachment proceedings under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution, has filed a certiorari application arguing that the process is violating her fundamental human rights. You can find all of this on 3news.com. Over to you, Alfred.
Let's get into some more stories here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesme 107.1 and on W93.5 in Y and beyond now. Earlier today, the government has revoked 55 small-scale mining licenses, while 907 out of the 1,278 licenses are currently under investigation for possible revocation. Now, this follows irregularities identified by the Small Scale Miners Review Committee. Now, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, disclosed this during the government accountability series held at the Jubilee House earlier today. He also revealed that a similar audit is being conducted for large-scale mining operations to ensure compliance with environmental and legal standards. Now, the move, he says, is aimed at sanitizing Ghana's mining sector and promoting transparency and sustainable operations. The minister further announced that the Forestry Commission has successfully reclaimed all 9 red zone forest reserves that were previously occupied by armed gang involved in illegal mining. See the minister earlier today. at the Jubilee House.
And I think subsector is deforestation and forest degradation, largely due to illegal mining, illegal logging, wildfires, and unsustainable agricultural practices. Within the forest reserves alone, over 5,500 hectares. And I think I keep repeating this. That is equivalent to 7,500 football fields. That has been degraded. But I'm happy to announce that in collaboration with law enforcement agencies, the Forestry Commission has successfully repossessed all 9 red zone forest reserves previously occupied by armed gangs. At the beginning of my service as a minister, I informed the people of Ghana the crisis we face. But I'm happy to tell you today that today we have repossessed all these forests. It doesn't mean we are completely out of the woods, but what it means that the forestry guards are able to enter in and out, and when they need reinforcement, they are supported. Additionally, 279 trucks conveying illegal lumber were intercepted, fined, and the illegal wood confiscated and auctioned. As government strategy to promote legal timber trade, Ghana entered into the voluntary partnership agreement with the EU, aimed at ensuring only legal timber from sustainable managed forests are exported to the EU market. Subsequently, Ghana is expected to issue what we call the Forest Law Enforcement Governance and Trade License, FLET, to accompany all wood exports to the EU market. Ghana is at the final stage of completing the process for issuance of this FLET license. And the key outstanding requirements is the ratification of these TUCs. And I must inform you that we are currently trying to get that done in Parliament. And the effective date of the FLET licenses coming live will be on the 8th of October 2025. And the reason why we are very emphasizing that is because either to the Forestry Commission, which has forestry guards, could not enter these forest areas. And what I'm saying today is that the forest guards are now able to actually monitor these forest areas. It does not mean that these bad guys have completely stopped going there, but we must continuously keep at it to ward them off and make sure we can protect these areas.
Well, the minister additionally indicated that some 425 excavators and other equipment used in illegal mining operations have been confiscated. A further 1,200 excavators have been impounded at the Tama port pending validation before clearance. Here's the minister.
Note that in collaboration with the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Finance under the GRA Customs Division and the Ports and Harbors Authority, we have initiated a proactive tracking of all imports of excavators and earth-moving equipment from the point of entry. So far, 1,200 excavators have been impounded pending validations before clearance at the port. We are also developing a centralized digital platform named the Ghana Mine Repository and Tracking Software that has been deployed at the Minerals Commission and is at an advanced stage to support this initiative. The platform will serve as the single point of integration for all agencies, including Customs, DVLA, the Ministry of Transport, the Minerals Commission, National Security, and the NAMOS, and provide authorized institutions with real-time access to permit history, equipment location, and operational compliance. A pilot project of over 191 excavators is currently being tracked in the dedicated control room of the Minerals Commission. And this is very, very innovative. This is very, very new. As you know, we are now able to track the excavators before they even set off to come to Ghana. And when they get there, the Minerals Commission, DVLA, everybody is there. And we have also tracking them to the geofencing and geotracking control room at the Minerals Commission. And we believe that we are going to get to that point where every movement of excavator in this country is actually regulated.
Well, let's stay a bit further on this, and let's go on to the telephone now. Awala Sewa is the co-founder of Eco-Conscious Citizens, one of the foremost environmental CSOs we have in this country. Awala, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Now, you hear the minister indicate, first of all, that all the 9 red-zoned forest reserves that were previously controlled, in fact, they had been taken over by armed illegal miners. They've all been taken over. In fact, they've been retrieved from these armed illegal miners by the Forestry Commission, and then also with the support of the Ghana Armed Forces. But he also did indicate that this is not it's not as though these armed illegal miners don't attempt to go back in there. They do, but then the Forestry Commission, with the support of the Ghana Armed Forces, have continuously tried to get them out of the place and prevent them from getting in. How does all of this strike you?
Well, I don't know if we're talking about Ghana, because what I am aware of is that the areas where we say the illegal miners have been removed, that is not quite the case. Take the Jimura Forest Reserve, for instance, that we said had been reclaimed or whatever. We all know what happened when the Forestry Commission officers went there. They were ambushed. So I'm sure some efforts were made. I'm sure they were removed from a portion of the forest. But to say that they've been removed completely, I'm not quite sure it's borne by the facts. There are people on the ground who can verify. So efforts are being made, but it is not the case, as far as my information is concerned, that we have retrieved all these or reclaimed all these 9 areas. That is not the case.
I see. But then if you hear the minister also talk about, for instance, the Forestry Commission now getting some support from the Ghana Armed Forces in doing this, and we saw that in Abrewa and Ninkrai, this community in the western region that was full of illegal miners, that was bent down, and these illegal miners flushed out. The problem, though, is that there were no arrests, because according to the Forestry Commission officials, the miners were over 5,000, and so they couldn't have arrested all of them in there as well. I mean, what's your thinking about what you have just said, that even though the government is saying that these miners have been driven out of these forest reserves, your reports suggest that some of them are still armed and in these forest reserves?
I mean, I'm sure that the administration wants the accurate information, they will have it. We have people of the ground like award-winning journalist Erastus Asaredonko. He's on the ground. He will give you the report. So if we really want to know what is happening, we will know. Yes, you as we have said, you did go to that forest reserve. Your intel told you about 2,000 illegal miners. There were about 5,000. And as you rightly said, you couldn't arrest all of them. But it's not as if you've completely, using the term, flushed them out. That is not the case. You have removed, some of them have escaped and so on and so forth, but they come back. And that is why the Forestry Commission has asked time and time again that you should have army patrol stationed close by, so that when there's movement or activity, they can quickly be dealt with. What needs to happen, and I think UTAC has again made the point, is that the promises made in the before the elections must be kept. Declare the targeted state of emergency, then overwhelmingly, go to all the hotspots. It can even be simultaneously. Remove the illegal miners and their equipment, and then have patrol station close by. You give telephone numbers to community members. Excavators are not like mobile phones. You can't put them into your pocket. So when they are approaching, numbers can be called so that action is taken. Because what we are doing piecemeal, it's not working. The threat is still there. The environmental terrorists are still there. We acknowledge that efforts are being made. We don't want to be ungracious and say that nothing is being done. No, lots of efforts are being made. The IGP is also doing very well. But the enormity of the problem we have, the steps that we are taking are not sufficient. We can't run away from a targeted state of emergency. We can't run away from it. We can't run away from repealing LI 2462. There are some measures that if the president has actually acknowledged that we face a national emergency, a national emergency demands robust measures. That is what we have to say. And those robust measures, it's not a question of taking it one day and we go to sleep. It will have to be sustained. The illegal miners will come back. you get rid of them. They'll come back, you get rid of them until they realize that they have no place to hide and they will not be allowed to come back. And systems are being put in place to monitor their movement, and that if they show signs of returning, they'll be dealt with.
And in fact, this bit about the targeted state of emergency call that you just made, I want to stay on that further and before we get into the excavators that have been impounded as we speak. The minister in charge of government communications did indicate that maybe there's a lot more engagement that needs to take place in this calls by civil society and then also UTAG, for instance, that government should consider the targeted state of emergency that the president promised while campaigning ahead of the 2024 elections. He says that there are other ways to also achieve the same results that a targeted state of emergency would achieve. And I want to take a listen to him.
Set up to coordinate this fight. Again, it is also very important that in the discussion we delineate the issues. There are civil society operatives who actually believe that we shouldn't even do mining at all in this country.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you go and do the mining, they will say that it hurts the environment, it hurts butterflies, it hurts animals, so stop. You understand me?
Yeah.
That view can be respected. It does not mean that it necessarily coincides with the interests of the country. It doesn't mean that mining in itself hurts the environment if it is done responsibly. The reason why I say this is this persistent commentary on the LI 2462. You see, the impression is created that the reason why people are mining illegally in forest reserves is because of this law. That is not the case. That law works in conjunction with 13 other laws, parent laws. We need a state of emergency before we can fight Galamsey. People speak as though the day you declare a state of emergency, Galamsey is one. That is, it is not as simple as that. So that's why I said that, yes, civil society has a right to speak, but let us not create an impression that the moment civil society says this, that is what must happen. Otherwise, there's no other path. Look, if you hold, and I have said it, I have accused President Akufo-Addo of, if you like, indirectly encouraging Galamsey because of his lack of will to fight it. The day you get a leader who is willing to go for any and everybody involved, we will begin to win it. And that's what President Mahama is doing. That is what you require. You don't need a state of emergency to hold Abanga or Yamin accountable if there's evidence that they are engaged in Galamsey. You need a state of emergency to do that. Some said that, oh, we said this in opposition. We said that the law should be repealed. True. But you see, when you take over power, you have a right to act responsibly. You review all the facts. You review all the existing issues and then make a determination how to go.
So that's Felix Kwachofo, who is the minister in charge of government communications. So,
you know, I'm just sort of astonished. You see, let's not patronize civil society organizations. Let's not be patronizing. Politicians, if they want to be taken seriously, must not just make promises when they're in opposition, and then when they come into government, decide that the promises are made, they don't need to be kept. You know, it's not as if civil society organizations or those calling for a state of emergency are, teenagers who don't know what they're about. The existential threat we face is such that you have the political will to deal with it. You don't have to call it state of emergency, but you do need to use all the powers that you have, your armed forces, meaning military, navy, air force, if necessary, engage them in a consistent, committed fight. So it's not about going to one forest today, saying we've done this and that, and the environmental terrorists have returned. When we say state of emergency, what we are saying is that the hotspots. Go there. You can go there simultaneously. So call it what you like. But it needs to be done if we really want to rescue Ghana from the catastrophe that we are facing. And I think it's very also disingenuous to talk about the LI as if anybody is saying that the minute you revoke LI 246 to all illegal mining stops. Of course not. But what is being said is that before LI 2462 was passed, under the existing guidelines, there were some protections. You can't mine in more than 2% of protected forest reserve. These protections have been removed. So the idea that we are just saying things without much thought is frankly quite disappointing. And would have hoped that any responsible persons who are preparing to take power, before you make promises, you've thought about it. you've spoken to different people, and you know that it's feasible. You don't just make the promises, and then you come to power and say, actually, we did make those promises, but, we don't need to keep them. That does not inspire confidence in politics or politicians. Ghanaians gave this administration an overwhelming majority because, frankly, they were fed up with what was happening. They didn't want to be poisoned. They realized that we faced an existential threat. There was ecocide going on. And the past administration didn't seem to be dealing with it because too many of their high flyers were involved. And it seems we voted for musical chairs because even in this current administration, high flyers, party chairmen, MPs have been reported as being involved or complicit. And we haven't seen anything happening to them. Yes, the Attorney General has written to Yoko regarding 2 persons. But it's more than these 2 persons. One might ask, why these 2 persons? What about all the others who have been reported time and time again, but nothing seems to be happening to them? Will not end illegal mining where well-placed persons connected to both the NPP and the NDC are allegedly involved in illegal mining. But will continue being poisoned.
But
if I can just come for Anoche teaching hospital, has told us that the number of kidney diseases has quadrupled. What are we waiting for? For everybody in Ghana to be dropping dead before we decide to take the measures we should take?
But there's one thing as well that's quite striking after today's press conference by the update by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Some 425 excavators and other equipment used in illegal mining have been confiscated. And we also get information that a further 1,200 have been impounded at the Tema ports. We've gone on this path before where we seized over 500 excavators. They all got missing, and we're still, not having any answers as to where these excavators are. What should be done differently this time around?
Well, you see, I keep on talking about the political will. We all know that excavators have very limited use. They are used in construction. But when you look at the thousands of excavators in the country, we know that they're not being used for construction. Is there so much construction going on in the country that we need so many excavators? We know very well that the excavators are finding their way to the forest reserves and decimating our forest reserves. You don't need to be a nuclear scientist to say that we are pausing the importation of excavators. It's not a question of a license or anything. We are pausing. Nobody can bring in any more excavators. We have sufficient excavators in the country. And then we talked about a tagging system. I'm reliably informed that it wasn't good enough. Some of the excavators were tagged, and they managed to remove the tagging system, and they find their ways to our forest reserve. So what we can do differently, first of all, stop the importation of excavators. There are sufficient excavators in the country for the legitimate work that needs to be done. And then when excavators are seized, they should be properly handed over to the appropriate authority. Inventory taking. Now, if these excavators grow wings and disappear, whoever it was handed over to should be held accountable, prosecuted. Once the person who is handed over knows that they'll be held accountable, believe me, they'll ensure that the excavators don't grow wings and disappear. Remember, I think last 2 months or so, there was talk about excavators that were court exhibits, clearly marked in red, in Kumasi, at the, Forestry Commission in Kumasi, and they were being removed. I think you will remember that story. I think
yes.
Erastus Ataridonko reported on it. So this date, has there been investigation? The media also, sometimes you bring up stories, but you don't follow up. What has been the outcome? Why were excavators that were court exhibits being removed from lawful custody? What has happened to those who gave the orders for the excavators to be removed? You see, when you don't follow these things up, what is happening will continue to happen. If you're talking about reset, then reset means beginning to do things properly. There should be a chain. Excavators have been handed over to somebody. They disappear. What are we doing about it?
And maybe in a minute, is there the political will to fight this illegal mining? Because you hear Felix Kwatiof also indicate that compared to what was the case previously, this time he's of the firm belief that there's enough political will that has been exhibited to fight illegal mining.
Well, I don't see sufficient political will being exhibited. Promises that were made have been broken, and the excuses being given are frankly laughable. We need to declare the targeted state of emergency. We need to use our armed forces and our Navy to ensure that we go to the hotspots and we go to the water bodies. And then we heard about so many rivers that have been diverted. What is the Navy doing? They should be deployed to go and do the needful. And all the term that is being used, the politically exposed persons who have been reported as being involved in illegal mining, what is happening to them? Political will means that you go after everybody, you are not selective about who you are going after. And before I end, I need to say that when the communities are also helping with the fight against illegal mining, they should not be targeted. In Antronsu, for instance, the activists who are trying to protect their landscape from ecocide and the Antronsu stream from being polluted, they rather were arrested on Farmers' Day. Ironically, they are farmers. One is an assemblyman, one is a teacher, but they are farmers. They were arrested on Farmers' Day, denied police bail, rushed to court, denied court bail, and they were in custody for 5 days because they allegedly burnt excavators that were being used to pollute the Antronsu stream. The police, after all this, have not even completed their investigation. So the court kept on adjourning the case because the police said their investigations were not complete. So if the investigations were not complete, what was the purpose in arresting them apart from intimidating them?
Okay.
So we're talking about political will. The political will needs to be shown everywhere.
Right.
Activists need to know that their input in fighting illegal mining is appreciated and will not be rather incarcerated.
Ola, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Ola Sewa is co-founder of Eco-Conscious Citizens, an environmental NGO.
Let's do some other stories now. Former Chief Executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, has been granted bail in the sum of 2 million Ghana cedis following his arraignment in a 280 million Ghana cedis extortion and money laundering case filed by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP. As part of the bail conditions, Dr. Abdul Hamid is required to produce 2 sureties, each earning a net monthly salary of not less than 5,000 Ghana cedis. The amounts must be justified. He's also mandated to report to the OSP every 2 weeks as investigations continue. Dr. Abdul Hamid is the first accused in the high-profile case involving 10 individuals and corporate entities accused of orchestrating a widespread corruption scheme within the petroleum sector between 2022 and 2024. Also granted bail under the same terms are Jacob Kwamina Amwa, who is a coordinator of the Unified Petroleum Pricing Fund, and Wendy Newman, an MPA employee. All 3 have pleaded not guilty to charges including conspiracy to commit extortion, extortion by a public officer, use of public office for profit, and money laundering. 4 other individuals, Albert Ankra, Isaac Mensah, Bright Bediako Mensah, and Kweku Abuaje Akwa, have also been granted bail in the sum of 2 million Ghana cedis each. However, their bail terms require 3 sureties, at least one of which must be secured by landed property. They are also required to report to the OSP bi-weekly. The accused are alleged to have benefited from a coordinated scheme that targeted oil marketing companies, OMCs, and bulk oil distribution companies, allegedly laundering proceeds through the purchase of luxury vehicles, properties, and fuel stations. The case, which has drawn significant public interest, has been adjourned to 26 August 2025 when substantive hearings are expected to begin. Let's do some other stories. Again, the Supreme Court has quashed the order directed at the National House of Chiefs in Kumasi to restore Nitaki Adami Lache II on the National Register of Chiefs as the Gamanche. In a ruling on Wednesday, July 23, 2025, a 5-member panel of the Apex Court, which had Justice Gabriel Scott Pomwang as its president, was of the view that before making the order to restore Nilanche II's name onto the register, the Kumasi High Court judge, Justice Frederick Tete, did not give Nitakite Teko a notice and hearing, thereby violating the rule of natural justice. This comes after the Apex Court upheld a certiorari application filed by counsel for Ni Taki True, Professor Peter A. Atupari.
I see. So, well, that effectively means that Ni Teko Taki Churu, the second, remains the Gamanche.
Right.
And this is what happened in court earlier today.
Court ruled, and that offends the rules of natural justice.
Out of this court with a victory for clients. Our clients' personal rights in Section 57 have been vindicated, and the background is very clear. On May 6th, he was in the Regional House of Chiefs, where he was denied an injunction. In that injunction ruling, the Regional House of Chiefs Judicial Committee made it clear that my client is the Gaman chair and he shall continue to be Gaman chair in that particular capacity. He ignored that ruling and tried to dribble us to Kumasi, obtain a mandamus on our bland site, and this mandamus has been affirmed by the Court of Appeal, and it is this mandamus that the court said it will not stand today.
Well, so that's what happened in court. You had the lawyer for the Gamanche, Nitaki Adama Lache. They're also speaking there to the media. Now, this is one that we've been following quite closely as well, and the decision by the Supreme Court earlier today. Let's go into matters ahead of the media budget review.
Yes, Alfred, in less than 24 hours from now, the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Tuforsin, will present the mid-year budget review in what is largely expected to project positive outlook for the year. The presentation required under the Financial Administration Act and Section 28 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921, will provide an update on the implementation of the national budget and offer projections for the remainder of the year. This year's review will outline Ghana's economic performance in the first half of 2025, with key focus areas expected to include revenue mobilization, public expenditure, debt servicing, and the broader fiscal outlook, in addition to updates on inflation trends, exchange rate developments, and structural reforms. The minister will also brief Parliament on the state of the ongoing debt restructuring. Meanwhile, Executive Director for Vision for Alternative Development, Labram Musa, is advocating for specific fiscal measures, particularly pushing for an upward review in excise taxes on goods like tobacco, alcohol, and sugar-sweetened beverages, arguing this would boost revenue and promote public health. Take a listen.
The Ghana Medical Trust Fund has approved, and obviously, if we all follow this, it tells us that there is an emergency situation at hand, and the current president is trying as much as can to get enough money, resources, to avert the current problem that Ghanaians are facing with respect to non-communicable diseases.
In anticipation of this mid-year budget review, let's now take a listen to some Ghanaians speaking about their expectations.
If you look at the environment, everything is successful than the other years. I'll be accepted with him. I don't have any comment either it's good or bad. Let's hope for God. God can do everything.
Marvelous thing we are all thinking about. Omaya dear papa. Essence say buy a stabilization of the dollar. Say above form and cost of goods and prices of the market, so above form. And expectations is say so many issues are going around say dollar no microphone into force na dollar no brabonti. Now the same traders no bet me asanya dollar no area trade.
Our prayer is that for the good God to change the story of Africa, to move Africa forward, to give Africa a leader that will be operating from his wisdom, not to operate from mere wisdom, or neither from his own understanding.
Even without the media budget, some of us, we are okay already. So we were expecting that something better should come out from it, because we see the start and we know the end will be the best.
The budget should capture everybody. That was our expectation, that they come to the various industries, okay, to find out what is going on.
Well, those are expectations ahead of the media budget review. Let's stay a bit further on this. And thankfully, we have an economist, a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Patrick Assuming, joining us on the telephone. Prof, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and good evening to listeners. Thanks for having me.
We see a number of the macroeconomic indicators trending towards the positive direction, and at least we've starting off with the currency holding its own against the major trading currency, the dollar. But then again, considering these recent concerns from the traders, and then also the fact that the structure of the economy itself hasn't changed, the fundamentals still remain the same. What do you expect in terms of policies to consolidate the gains of the cedi against the dollar?
Well, so the first thing is that I think in terms of, not necessarily in terms of the cedi, I think in the immediate term, the finance minister and the government will probably feel that they have the cedi issue under wraps. But at the same time, I think this is a fiscal policy measure. The reading of the budget is the reading of the government's fiscal policy statement. So you expect that we tackle the fiscal side in particular. Of course, that goes a long way in helping stabilize the cedi, government finances. What we saw in the main budget was that the government kind of reverse course from what we saw in the previous administration, which had done primarily a tax-based consolidation, and decided that it's going to do some revenue restraint. So, but going forward, we know that the government, some way, somehow, have to find ways to raise more revenue. So I think that is the direction I expect the finance minister to go with the next budget reading. What is unlike, also keep in mind that we've been told that the reform of the VAT that we were told in the main budget, right about now, we expect to get an update, whether the process is complete, and if it's complete, what specific changes we may see. And in particular, one of the key taxes that the government promised to remove, the COVID-19 levy, is going to be dealt with as part of the broader VAT reform. So I expect that those aspects of the fiscal consolidation, we begin to see a clear picture of what we are going to do with that. And I definitely, in that regard, I definitely hope that we hear something about the road tolls. There's been overtures that, they are working to bring back the road tolls in a more humane form. That has not happened yet, but I hope that we'll get an update on exactly where we are as far as the road tolls is concerned. And then, in terms of the real structure of the economy, well, the government has communicated its broad policy, which is a 24-hour economy. It has lined the full document. If anything, what I would expect to hear is a little bit more of a roadmap. The policy document was broad, and we know that those things all of them are not going to be implemented at the same time. And remember, the budget is a one-year document telling us what the government is doing. So I expect that they will use the budget to give us a little bit more detailed roadmap on exactly what is going to happen first, what measures, give a little bit more detail about the incentives and interventions that the government is using regarding the 24-hour economy.
And you mentioned the road tolls as well, and then the fiscal measures that you want to be put in place. But how about the fight against corruption, for instance? Because every time we talk about that, and or sealing the loopholes in the entire revenue generation system, because we're looking at the Auditor General's report, for instance, and end of 2024, we're seeing over 19 billion cedis lost to one financial infraction or some diversion of public funds into private pockets in the public sector. And 86% of that amount, all of it, was as a result of financial infractions in the energy sector. And we're having to pay an additional levy to address the energy sector debt. What do you expect to see in terms of policy direction and in dealing with the corruption, the inefficiencies, especially in the energy sector?
So I think there are two broad policy measures to address the corruption. One part is the laxity in public financial management and expenditure controls that allows entities who are acting on behalf of the government to embezzle or misappropriate funds. That's one aspect. Now, the other aspect has to do with punitive measures for people who have clearly violated the law. Let's deal with the first one. The first one involves changes in the Procurement Act, the Public Sector Financial Management Act, and overall strengthening of governance reforms that are largely sitting within the IMF. If you look at the IMF program and some of the structural benchmarks that we are supposed to undertake, many of them fall within that category. It turns out that towards the end of 2024, those were the structural benchmarks that were missed. Fortunately, as part of the corrective measures, this government has already passed a lot of them. Some of the things that the previous government struggled to pass, some of those governance reforms that were supposed to pass, that the previous government couldn't pass, most of them have been passed now. However, it's a matter of implementation. So we expect that we'll get a clear communication about where the implementation is going to be. As for the issue about punishing, dealing with corruption cases, well, we have already seen that there are a lot of prosecutions that are ongoing. We just hope that it will yield results and we begin to see the impact that we want to see.
And I do thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you as always. Professor Patrick Assuming is a professor of economics at the University of Ghana Business School, joining us here ahead of the media budget review. Stay with us. We'll have a coverage of the media budget review presentation by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Toforsing. Tomorrow, the coverage starts with a pre-coverage conversation starting at 7 a.m. on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7, and we'll bring you the coverage when he starts the presentation. All things being called at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So stay with us here on 3FM 92.7 and across all media journal platforms. Let's go to the Ashanti region. Not too good news there.
Security has been tightened at Asawase F line following the brazen shooting and killing of a local chief. The incident has sparked tensions, but authorities are urging calm, promising swift action to bring the perpetrators to justice. Ashanti regional correspondent Ibrahim Abubakar has more.
Behind me is the scene of a shocking crime that has left the entire Asawase community mourning. Abdul Malik Azimbe, a respected traditional leader, was gunned down by unknown assailants on Tuesday evening. The tragedy unfolded when two armed men on a motorbike ambushed Chief Azimbe outside his home. Witnesses say one attacker, armed with an AK-47 rifle, fired multiple shots at the Kadi Divisional Area Chief before escaping. The victim was rushed to Menchia District Hospital in critical condition, but was later transferred to Komfanochi Teaching Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. As grief grips the community, family and friends gathered at the chief's residence on Wednesday, struggling to comprehend the loss.
The youth, the vibrancy they are. At times, if the proper thing is not done at the right time, a time may come, we may not be able to control them. So that's why we are pleading to the police, Minister of Interior, they should fast track things so that justice will be administered at the right time to be able to calm down things.
With tensions rising, The Squaremampo Municipal Chief Executive has called for restraint.
This is very tragic, extremely tragic, and I will continue to urge calm and ask that they allow the security to finish the investigations and be able to unravel the circumstances surrounding this barbaric act. Surely justice shall prevail in the end.
Meanwhile, Ashanti Regional Police Commander DCOP Emmanuel Kujo says the killers will be tracked.
Ejumadi yasha said that. Enti muma makumatoyem.
Investigations are already underway, and we urge the public to remain patient as we pursue justice. The Inspector General of Police has deployed a specialized team from Accra to assist in apprehending the perpetrators. We strongly caution against any form of vigilante action. Let the law take its course.
Ama yewra otumfo no ma obia mfa tumi encheninsa.
As the investigation continues, the Council of Zongo Chiefs is pleading with the youth to avoid vigilante actions and allow due process.
Nyamichira ni tumi na yachi omo a misira mo. Moma yachira omo se yawa abotre.
I appeal to everyone to remain calm and allow due process to prevail. Once the perpetrators are identified, do not resort to mob justice. Instead, we must immediately hand them over to the police so the full force of the law can be applied. For now, the community remains on edge as police work to unravel the motive behind this killing. The mortal remains of the chief has been sent to Upper East Region for burial.
That's Ibrahim Abubakar there. If you go on our Facebook page, we're showing you the current situation in that community as we speak, and not looking too good. We got a notification from the Interior Ministry, and the Interior Minister, a member of Parliament for this same area where this incident happened, the Ashanti constituency, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, has expressed deep sorrow and condemnation over the brutal killing of Na Abdul Malik Azembe. Now, the Kusasi chief of the Ashanti region also served as the Kadi divisional area chief in the Binduri district of the Upper East region. In a statement shared via his official Facebook page, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, the minister in charge of the interior and also the member of parliament for the Ashanti constituency, described the killing as a heinous act and extended heartfelt condolences to the bereaved family, the Kusasi community in the Ashanti region, and the traditional leadership of the Kosal area. Let's go into some more stories, shall we?
Yes, some women's group led by ActionAid Ghana have petitioned the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, to expedite the passage of the long-stalled anti-witchcraft bill into law. Today, July 23, marks exactly 5 years since the brutal lynching of 90-year-old Ikriadente at Kafaba in the Savannah region. To commemorate the anniversary, the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Agnes Namomolate, joined the women's groups to present the petition. On July 23, 2020, Ikriadente was lynched to death after being accused of witchcraft. She was alleged to have used her powers to prevent rainfall in the area, a claim made by a local sorcerer, Sharina Mohammed. Following this accusation, she was severely beaten until she fell unconscious and later died. The Tamale High Court later sentenced 2 individuals to 12 years in prison for their roles in her killing. The Criminal Offences Amendment Bill 2022, also known as the Anti-Witchcraft Bill, was subsequently passed by Parliament and forwarded to President Nana Akufo-Addo for assent. However, the President declined to sign it, citing constitutional concerns. Here is Commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Shraj Joseph Withau, speaking at the event held to mark the 5th anniversary of her death.
Coalition Treve would want to make a solidarity statement, and it is in this form. 1, it is good that the coalition is memorializing the day on which Ikriadente was tragically lynched. It's good that the family have given up themselves to be used for the good of a good cause. And we are happy that the son and other relatives are in our midst. But the point is, can we commit ourselves that this being the 5th anniversary, we should not reach the 6th anniversary before we pass the anti-witchcraft bill, which I would want to an equivalent anti-witchcraft bill. That will make the bill more directly related to powerful, let's say, whose death has occasioned the wake-up call, ensure that this should not continue. I would also want to take the opportunity to make commendation to Honorable Sosu and all his members of parliament who joined him in this private members bill. I understand it is one of the very first, and for them to have the courage to confront a traditional cultural matter and to bring all others on board, including all the stakeholders in this room, of course, as we commend.
That was the Commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Joseph Withal. We'll be back after this break with the latest in business and sports. Bismarck Awusa is standing by.
Hello, Ghana. It's a new year and Bills Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bills offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596 920 833.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Awusa. Coming up tonight, World Bank report warns of rising digital fraud exposure as 8% of Ghanaian mobile phone users scammed into sending money to fraudsters. This story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. A new report by the World Bank has revealed that nearly 8% of mobile phone users in Ghana have fallen victim to scam calls or messages sending money to fraudsters. The 2025 Global Findex report highlights rising exposure to digital fraud, with experts calling for legal reforms and targeted awareness campaigns to protect vulnerable populations. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details. Nearly 8% of Ghanaians who use mobile phones have admitted to sending money after receiving scam calls or messages. That's according to the latest Global Findex report by the World Bank. The report reveals that while 32% of users received scam messages but avoided sending money, close to half, about 48%, did not receive any scam attempt. Ghana is listed alongside Gabon and Senegal as countries where digital fraud exposure is high, and the tendency to send funds is equally alarming. While both men and women are at risk, the report notes that women are not statistically more likely to fall for scams. The findings point to the growing need for consumer education, with studies in countries like Uganda showing that interactive fraud awareness tools can reduce scam vulnerability. The World Bank is therefore urging governments to evolve their legal systems to treat online harassment with the same seriousness as physical violence. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on the World Bank warning of rising digital fraud exposure as 8% of Ghanaian mobile phone users were scammed into sending money to fraudsters. Now, ahead of the media budget presentation on Thursday tomorrow, the Civil Society Organization CSO's Budget Forum is urging the government to outline concrete strategies to consolidate recent economic gains. The group is calling for clearly defined policies that will ensure fiscal stability while prioritizing urgent interventions to tackle the country's alarming unemployment rate. According to coordinator of the CSO Budget Forum, Abdul Karim Mohammed, sustained recovery will depend on prudent economic management and targeted support to sectors that create jobs and drive inclusive growth.
Key question that we are asking is what specific measures are being taken to sustain some of these gains? Is it just a fluke, or there are underlying policies that will ensure that in the short to the medium term, these gains will be consolidated so that we don't go back to old negative experiences that we have had over time? So here we are taking stock of what a year has been and making recommendations to government to pay attention to some specific areas for us to consolidate the gains. A key issue that is a headache to everyone is the persistent challenge of youth unemployment. We always say it's a ticking time bomb, but if you look at most of the time, the policies that are used to address this, they are short-lived, just campaign promises and slogans, but not sustainable jobs per se.
And that was coordinator of the CSO Budget Forum, Abdul Karim Mohammed. Ending Business News on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Oreku Ampofo is here for sports. Please stay.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and just by way of update from the University of Ghana Sports Stadium, the Black Sack Knights have secured bronze medal in the WAFU Zone B Championships after they managed to beat their counterparts Niger 2-0 in that match as well. It was a game that had its own drama as it had to be abandoned for a few minutes after Ghana were awarded a penalty in the second half, one that the Nigerians deemed as controversial and so stepped off the pitch. But after a few minutes, they managed to come back to ensure that the game was concluded with the Black Satellites winning by 2-0 thanks to a brace from Aziz Musbao. Let's now hear from head coach of the under-20 team, that's Desmond Ofei, who was proud of the team's performance.
It's not been easy because I think we're very disappointed after Egypt. We really wanted to qualify to the World Cup. We had to dust ourselves really quickly to come back and get the team ready to participate in this tournament. I think if you look at the squad, we had only 20% of the boys that we used in the AFCON. On the other side, it's good for us because we gave a lot of opportunity to new and young talented boys, and we showed quality in some moments. Unfortunately, against the Ivory Coast, we gave it away. But it's football, we learned, and today we show that if you do the right things, there's a lot of quality in this country, and we have to continue to work hard and stay focused. So I'm really happy for the boys, and for the third place, a bit painful because I believe that it would have been a fantastic final against Nigeria, but it's football. So I'm proud of them, and we keep working.
So that was Desmond Ofei, head coach of the under-20 team. And just before we go, Barcelona have officially announced the signing of Marcus Rashford from Manchester United for a season-long loan up until June 30, 2026. The Spanish club would have an option